Art imitates life in the big screen adaptation of an award-winning novel that has been described as one of the best books of the decade after its release in 2019, telling the story of a young African-American boy, Elwood, whose dreams of college are dashed when he is found in the wrong place at the wrong time and sentenced to a brutal reform school in the Jim Crow South. His misfortune finds him an unexpected ally in fellow reform schoolboy Turner, and the two strike up a friendship that changes their lives forever in the thought-provoking drama Nickel Boys.
Long time, long time, long time.
Woo! That's it, Em. You're doing great.
The original novel, The Nickel Boys, by author Colson Whitehead, won a Pulitzer Prize for fiction, but wasn't completely fictional because it was based on the real-life Dozier School in Florida, which was exposed for abusive and brutal treatment of its students. So when Oscar-nominated documentary filmmaker RaMell Ross took on the job of director, it was a unique project to take on, and therefore deserved a unique interpretation. Hi, RaMell. Judita DaSilva, Arise play Nigeria.
Oh, cool.
My first question is, you land directing the film adaptation of this Pulitzer Prize winning book, and in the plethora of ways you can depict it on screen, you choose to not have your protagonist on screen but shoot it from his perspective. Why did you go with that creative choice?
Well, it seemed natural. However strange it may appear or be compared to cinema history, I think I like film to be something that is connected to my sense of being. And as a Black person or a person of color, I've wanted nothing more but to see a film that felt like it was coming from inside of my body, in the way in which many films eventually seep in. I wanted the film to sort of seep out. Like, is it possible for a person? I wonder what a person would be like if they saw the world through my eyes, type of question, you know?
Yeah. So as the director, you're kind of captain of the ship, and also there's a responsibility you have having cast your ensemble of actors. So you have these two young actors, up and coming, talented, and they get a meaty role like this. At any point, did you wrestle with your decision because you're almost denying them an amount of screen time that really gives them the easy way to flex their acting muscle, but you're telling them do it in a different way? So did you ever wrestle with the choice on their behalf?
I'm gonna quote Werner Herzog here. And he said, "I have no time for reflection." I don't mean that, of course, I reflect a lot, but I thought that would be really funny to say.
And apt.
And apt. No, not considering the way in which the actors' careers or their talents will be, displayed through the filmmaking process, because that would undermine, I think, the larger synthesis of the work. Also, I guess, because I know that they're so talented, they don't need more time. Like, the way in which we cast them because they were perfect for the role.
Yeah.
And if they had 1 minute or they had 20 minutes, a person who wants to look at them as, these up-and-coming stars or are open to it will see it, which just speaks to their abilities.
One of the most moving roles in the film is that of Elwood's grandmother, Hattie, which required an actress of particular emotional depth to bring her to life. That responsibility fell to Oscar-nominated supporting actress of King Richard, Aunjanue Ellis Taylor. With the character of the grandmother played by Aunjanue Ellis, she's this really powerful emotional tether and anchor that almost brings Elwood's character home to know where it all began, what matters, who I am, how I define myself.
and you just have her punctuate the film to kind of always ground the narrative. How did you bring her on board, and what was the process of like weaving her into this tale about these two boys?
Yeah, Aunjanue it's strange. I think every part of the project, if you take any piece away, like the whole thing collapses.
Yeah.
I think like every part is a leg, but Aunjanue specifically is maybe the ground beneath the legs or something.
Yeah.
And I love your question because we knew Aunjanue was the first person we thought of and wanted for Hattie. And our thesis was if we could just get Aunjanue, then we had a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, just what a phenom that sort of like raised everyone's level of authenticity or something. And I'm not exactly remembering your question. I'm kind of like reveling in the fact that she gave her time to this project. Yeah, and so this is kind of funny. She had saw Hell County this evening, the film that I made previously, and she called the university that I work at, Brown University, because she's an alumni trying to get in contact with me just to say hello. So she had reached out 3.5, 4 years before we started the project, just to say hi, and then full circle, we ended up casting her, and then we're friends.
It happened as it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is now getting into the nerdy part of things. So as I was watching the film and just looking at the way you make the film, so your use of oblique shots, the way you cut from shot counter shots, your layering of voiceover, and all of that stuff, it started asking questions of the film that I only ask when I watch things by people like Lars von Trier or Fritz Lang or Terrence Malick, which is the intersection and cross-pollination of art and film. So I'm asking a question I wish I could ask them, but I actually get to get one of your ilk and ask you this. What moves you more? Is it an exploration of art through the medium of film or storytelling as a filmmaker? So is it artist or auteur that moves you?
I love your question because it puts me in a category of people that I hail as the greats.
Yeah, okay.
But also, I think what you bring up is something that's at the core of my process, which is maybe not exactly either of those, maybe both those at the same time, but I would say even more having film or whatever art feel as powerful as some of the greatest experiences we have in real life. I think when I know that an image is doing something beside another image is because it hits it, like the first time I see it, I'm like, whoa, that was very similar to the time I saw a person riding their bike and a bird came and swooped by their head and the person like whipped to the side and they shuddered a little bit and they kept going straight and like, what an amazing thing to witness. That's also happened to me before. What an amazing thing to survive. And those types of invigorating, nerve-centered moments, I think are what a lot of artists, like a Terrence Malick, which I notice in like Tree of Life, trying to sort of coalesce that experience and that sociality and that humanness in something that is fundamentally contrived.
The lead roles of Elwood and Turner are the focal point of the story, bringing tenderness and humanity in the midst of despair. And as young actors, Ethan Herisse and Brandon Wilson took up the roles respectively. They embraced an alternative style of filmmaking by RaMell Ross, without failing to capture a connection with the audience.
Lovely to meet you both.
Nice to meet you.
I want to start with you, Ethan. So could you just tell me, what was the process of filming like for you when you knew that whatever it is you're engaging in as an artist, as an actor, it's going to be seen by the audience first person, so a lot of that would be lost, but you still need to convey it?
Oh, I mean, I was excited by the entire prospect. So long as I get to be on set and I get to play, that's in and of itself is a really big privilege. So it was the material I connected with, Elwood I connected with, so It didn't matter if I was going to be in front of the camera or behind it. I did my best. I did my best to be as present and as truthful as possible in order to not only do Elwood the justice I feel like he deserved, but also to be there for the other actors on set.
But like picking up on that, as an up-and-coming young actor, you get a role like Elwood in a story that's powerful. You know that in the natural mechanics of filmmaking, the audience connects with you by seeing you, understanding you, seeing the inflections of your face, seeing how you convey emotions. But knowing the kind of power of the story you had to tell, as an artist, how did you flex your muscle to make that connection with us, which you did, knowing that you had that presence handicap of screen time?
That's a very good question. And to be honest, I didn't think about it that much. It really was, at the end of the day, I felt as though I had a job to do, and regardless of, it wasn't necessary at any point. It wasn't about how audiences may have perceived it or how it would have been lost in terms of what it does for me as Ethan, the actor. It was all about Elwood and conveying this story. So that's the only thing that really mattered to me. There was no kind of like I know you didn't say this, but there was no ego involved in that process.
And you knew that you'd connect.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Okay.
I think also, if I could add in there, I think that would be a big ask for the actor, I think, on their own to consider all that. I mean, at least for me personally, I love it when you have all these people around that you can trust, and a lot of that, how the audience is going to react to it, that can be left to them, and you can just show up and do this thing, be completely present, and then if it's not reaction to them, then they'll tell you, like, let's switch it up, because then they get to consider all that. You don't have to worry about, like, what's happening off the stuff. You're just like, oh, let me be here. And then everybody else can worry about that.
Do that.
And they do, and you're thankful for it.
What happened to that one kid I used to hang with all the time?
You don't remember?
Remember what?
You really don't remember.
And looking at the connection between your two characters, I was curious as to how you go about, because you see buddy comedies, you see relationship stories. When you have things like this that are kind of akin to your Shawshank Redemption, or in the movie we see the Defiant ones with Sidney Poitier and Tony Curtis, that you have a kinship that's forged in trauma. For an actor, how do you go about bringing out the tenderness and bringing all the nuances of a relationship of two friends, but it's built on a foundation of sadness and pain?
Beautiful question. I think for me, it would be a similar response to kind of what Ethan said to your last question. I'm in the moments. It's the moment. You're being in the moment, so there's breath and there is tenderness, and I'm not necessarily considering the foundation. The foundation's there. I'm aware of it, and it's already been built, so now I can just live in the moment, and the tenderness can come to light, the pain can come to light, but I don't have to. Generally, I don't feel like I have to call upon it or consider the foundation too much, and it's written in there, and it's built. The worlds are built, the costumes are built, and now I can show up and inhabit that space and and walk upon the foundation that's been built, and that I've also contributed to building, but now I can release it and just live in it.
See, now this is a question that it's going to get quite deep, but I'm so keen to hear both of your responses. So there's a conversation that it's burgeoning within the Black community about Black pain harvested for entertainment. And particularly in today's environment where there's this proliferation of the imagery on social media that's almost saturated with Black suffering, Black death, Black pain, Black disenfranchisement. So if both of you had to fight for art and make a case for why films like Nickel Boys need to be made, that even though they trigger this sensory revisiting of Black pain, there's a purpose behind it and why it's worth doing, what would you say?
I would say that, especially as it pertains to Nickel Boys, the way that all of the trauma was explored was in a deeply poetic and beautiful way. I think that, and that probably does feel strange to hear, and it does kind of feel strange to say, but there is so much that this movie offers to audience members as an experience, and I think one of those things is the images that you see. Some of them are really difficult, and some of them are really traumatic. But through the friendship of Elwood and Turner, there's so much beauty, and there's so much that can be found throughout that relationship, and I think that what this movie offers, and hopefully reminds people, is that there is, in the midst of all of the darkness, there is light, and that's something to remember and to cherish when we can.
I don't know what more you want me to remember.
Put it like this. When we discuss it, like analyzing films, we always say that in every season, in every year, you get a number of films about Holocaust movies, because the Jewish community has a concerted effort that never forgets, lest we repeat accidents of the past. But the Black community has a different approach to it. But I always fight for it and say that in terms of art, I agree with the points you've made. So it's important that people also hear your perspective, having been part of Nickel Boys.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, huh?
I thought it was going to get deep, but I was so excited about this interview because I had like a screening and there was very few of us, and I was like, I went into my bag as a film student and I was like, yeah, okay, I need to talk to these guys. So yeah, I'd like to hear.
I would say it's tricky. I think something that I very much resonated with RaMell and with Nickel Boys is an openness. RaMell, I don't want to misquote him, but he's, at least once I've heard him talk about Blackness as being a question, and not an answer, not a fixed perspective of how to view a person, but it's more of he talks about films that represent Blackness as like a representation of like an idea, of a concept. And I've heard him talk about Blackness as a question, rather to question what this concept is, what it is to race another person, to put these identities upon a person. Yeah. And to then that person adopts those identities and we attach ourselves to all of these concepts, whether it be Jewish with the Holocaust, whether it be Black, and then we start to live in these worlds that are limited by these concepts and only exist within the confines of what these concepts mean to us. Yeah. So I think conversations that we've had with RaMell and that I get to feel in this film is that it transcends the limitation of a concept. It's no longer telling you how to look at a person, whether it be Black, whether it be this. In Nickel Boys, yes, there's a conversation of race, but I feel it's no longer saying this is how you should look at Black people. It's saying, how are we looking at people, and how are we looking at each other? And so it's more questioning beyond, at least for me, beyond the concepts, beyond the superficial surface. And so films like that can be made, that can allow you to release your limited view of yourself and everyone, then that's the beauty of it all.
That's a brilliant answer, and thank you so much for talking to us. I can't wait for us to see it in Nigeria. Well done and congrats.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nickel Boys challenges the audience in both its style and its content. Familiar stories of Black lives discovered in new and unfamiliar ways of telling them serves to make the exploration of self and form within film a more fascinating adventure for the viewer.
Because watching the film, I think there's two ways of receiving it, as you're just watching the film and being entertained by it, but then analyzing the experience, the audiovisual experience. So for you, having completed the work as you intended it to be, what do you hope audiences take away from Nickel Boys?
I think I would like for people to take away, if I were to use takeaway language, exactly what you expressed in offering the question, which is a sensory experience. I think all cinema is a sensory experience. All human experience is a sensory experience. Kind of goes part and parcel with it. But I think that there's sensory experiences that are richer, that are more aleatoric, that are more complex, that are embedded in certain narratives in people's lives that offer a type of richness to our understanding of other people and other people's experience in the world than others. They're like greater degrees of it. And so if someone leaves moved or feeling in any way, whether or not they can articulate that was inside the perspective of a young Black boy, Jim Crow South, Dozier School, has nothing to do with the sort of unconscious power of having them feel like they've experienced something. That's a narrative in itself. That's like their own corporal impression. That's their own memory bank being tagged with the moment of the film.
Well, Mr. Ross, thank you, and thank you for talking to us, and keep challenging me with your movies.
And please don't challenge me more with your questions. I'm still rethinking about them. Thank you. No, thank you.
What are you gonna do? It's now or never.
Hello.